So welcome everybody. This is the Finnbrit Study in the UK event, and for the first time we're hosting this online. This is the second time we're arranging this. Last year we arranged this and we had a face-to-face meeting here at Finnbrit at Freda, and there were about 40 to 50 participants there. Clearly this list of participants is much more sort of, how can I say, intimate at this time. The Finnbrit, I don't know if you know Finnbrit, but I'd like to say just a couple of words that Finnbrit values are diversity, kindness, inclusiveness, and lifelong learning. And we try and further those via offering, obviously, teaching or courses, training courses in English, examinations. So we provide the IELTS exams, and then also social events, cultural events in English. So those are the ways in which we try and do our bit in the world. Then about this event, we were going to talk about first the application process and how to finance your studies to start off with. Then our panelists are going to tell some of their study experiences, perhaps some of the value that they may have experienced. And then you can start sending questions of your own via the chat. But why don't we just let all of the panelists introduce themselves, and perhaps Kirsty, our embassy representative, could start, please.
Yeah, sure, happy to, Ulla. Thanks very much, and thank you for inviting me to be on this panel. Very happy to be here. So my name is Kirsty Bure. I'm the Deputy Head of Mission at the British Embassy in Helsinki. I'm actually quite recently arrived in Finland, previously been posted to Brazil and France, but very, very happy to be here. Ancient history, I did an Erasmus year myself when I was at Glasgow University and spent a year in France studying, and a super positive learning experience and also sort of growth experience. So very, very keen to answer questions and happy to see your interest. Thanks, Ulla.
And perhaps Robin, you could go next and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Robin. I'm a second-year medic at Oxford at Somerville College. So I'm quite new within the uni experience for medicine because I still have 5 years left. Before going to Oxford, I spent a year in the military here in Finland. I've always grown up here in Finland. And I went to Matleden's IB before that. Yeah.
Sounds good. And perhaps Julia next.
Yeah, hi all. My name is Julia Contio. I am currently in London and I'm doing my legal practice course this year before joining Dentons as a trainee solicitor at London office as well. Before that, I went to Science College in Oxford and did my law undergraduate degree there. And before that, I did my IB degree in Wales. So I have been in the UK for a while now, but before that, I was brought up in Finland.
Thank you. And perhaps Juha, you could introduce yourself at this point. On mute.
Oh, no. Well, a very classic Zoom gaffe. I apologize. I suppose you can hear me. Now. Yeah. So I'm Juha. I'm a very recent Cambridge graduate. Graduated this summer in absentia. Unfortunately, hopefully we'll get to have a ceremony next year. And at Cambridge, I studied history. And I'm originally from Oulu. And contrary to Robin and Julia, I did the national or like sort of A-level equivalent systems. So didn't do IB. Came from a slightly different background, and yeah, very happy to be here this afternoon.
Very good. And then perhaps Mira, thank you for joining. I can see that you're online. Mira is actually our facilitator, and after that I can sort of shut up. So perhaps Mira, you could introduce yourself and take over.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Mira Berglund Fitzpatrick. I'm on the board of the Finnish British Society Helsinki. and I'm delighted to be able to attend this event, and I hope that we learn a lot of new insights and particularly can offer something to our students in terms of those insights and sharing the knowledge. As you know, the Finnbrit has been around for 90 years, and this is the second time we're arranging Study in the UK seminar, and this time we're online on Zoom, and I hope we have a great hour together. And without further ado, then perhaps we could move on to the first question, which is really, how would you describe studying and living in the UK? What is it like, or what's it been like? And if you have a comparison, obviously, to somewhere else, please share that insight as well. If we start with you, Robin, perhaps.
Okay, sure. So how it's been, obviously having always lived in Finland, suddenly living in the UK is quite a big difference. Obviously I had visited there before, as my mom's English, so like I was familiar, but it's just in general, like people are very bubbly in a sense. They're really positive and really friendly. So that's been a great experience. And the studying experience and just living there in general, it's different from here, I guess, in the sense that it's, first of all, people are like so friendly, and it's quite international. At least my experience has been so. And compared to my friends in Finland and things, they're still studying with the same people they've always studied with in the same places they've always grown up with. So it's just like a big transition in that way. So those were my initial thoughts, just like different, I guess.
What about you, Juha, then? What are your
well, I think, to be completely honest, I think it's a bit difficult for me to isolate what exactly is UK and what exactly was more related to Cambridge in my experience. I think Cambridge was very much of a bubble, and so much of a bubble that I sometimes forgot that I was in the UK, to be completely honest. It was a very sort of otherworldly experience. I really usually only properly remembered that I was in the UK only when I went to London. And when I came back to Cambridge, I was again in this kind of ethereal fantasy world. So I don't know how much I've gotten to know the UK, to be completely honest. But from a very practical I don't know whether Robin can sort of relate to this, or Julia, as you're also sort of, I think Oxford is probably as much of a bubble as Cambridge. But from a practical standpoint, critical differences to Finland are that, well, you live in a college, or then if you do not go to a collegiate-based university, you still would live in university accommodation. In Finland, people tend to live in their own apartments, as it is that is something that they're able to afford. And in the UK, living on your own is significantly more expensive. And even when you eventually move to live on your own, and if one goes to a university where one is forced to do that, you would live with flatmates. So basically, the kind of, and then because the terms are very short, you would end up going back and forth between Finland and the UK all the time for holidays. So suppose if you go to university in Finland, that you're sort of weaned off from your parents, and it's much clearer end to childhood or youth, kind of. Yeah, childhood, more like that you move to university. In the UK, it's kind of, it's a period of, positively, I would say it's a positive experience, a period of sort of very prolonged adolescence, and from this practical point of view. But I think I've spoken for too long, so I think I will speak on other topics when next questions will come up.
Julia, do you sort of voice this same opinion as well, and perhaps maybe take a view more from study perspective? You know, that do you feel there's more guidance from university, at least in the beginning, the first years in the UK compared with with elsewhere, perhaps, if you are able to make that comparison?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that there's more guidance and supervision, if you like to say, from especially universities when you're an undergrad. They really make sure that it's sort of like still like being in like basic education in Finland, that they make sure that you know your homework and you do it on time and someone checks that you have done your homework. It's much more supervised and routine-like. So everything is very clear. I think also it's a bit more intense, it can also be, than in Finland, because Finland is much more independent and they trust that you kind of know what you're doing and you choose your own topics. Whereas, for example, I studied law, everything is pretty much already like told what you're going to do within the 3 years of your undergraduate degree. And I definitely voiced the like experiences of Robin and Juha in the sense that like living in student halls or college accommodation means that you're always sharing a flat or a building with other people, which is really nice, in my opinion. You always have someone to cook dinner with.
Kirsti, do you, from the embassy perspective, you've obviously COVID-19 has affected all of us globally, I mean, in a massive way. Is that something that you have discussed a lot at the embassy, and do you see this impacting study in the UK?
So I think that's a good question, very topical question. I mean, yes, this is something that we discuss frequently, both our posture here, but also thinking about the people-to-people links, the movement between the UK and the rest of the world. Frankly, I think it's a question that it's very difficult to answer, particularly as I guess we're talking about students in particular who are applying for 12 months down the line, when it's obviously we all hope that the global situation is much more positive. Institutions are continuing to function, continuing to welcome international students who are going back this year. They will find it depends on the institution, but measures will have been taken for a combination of in-person, distance learning. It sort of depends place to place, but it is obviously the biggest sort of hot issue anywhere at the moment.
Sure. I think we had a question from the audience already about funding and fees. Perhaps it would be a good place to briefly talk about this here now. Then, I know in the last panel we had, we were assured by the British Embassy at that time that status quo was to stay, and study opportunities would be open, and that was in everybody's interest, which I'm sure it is. But do we have any up-to-date news on fees and how we see the funding going forward?
Yeah, so I'll come in. Sorry, in this, Mira. I'm probably the best placed person to answer this. I'm not sure when the last meeting was, but obviously there have been further announcements, and I'm sure actually the audience will be aware that it is not easy messaging in this part. In that, for EU nationals who do not have citizens' rights for the UK, so those applying to start studying after from the academic year 2021-22. They will no longer be eligible for home fee status or for support. So that is a more difficult picture. Absolutely recognise that, and those are decisions which have been announced by the UK government, and it is as a consequence of the UK, the UK leaving the EU. So from 2021, sorry, the academic year 21-22. Non-UK students, EU students will be treated as other international students.
Does that apply to not only fees but housing possibilities, opportunities, and such like as well, or would that stay?
So that applies to other student support as well. Yes, so student loans and other support. what governments have announced, and there is a different approach, I think, potentially between the devolved nations, is that there may be other sort of pools of funding. Further detailing on that hasn't been announced, sort of scholarships or different pots that students could bid into. More details of that will be announced as future negotiations progress, but that has been set out as an intention. But at the moment, I'm afraid there's not any more detail that I can give you on that.
Yeah. A question then to the student panelists. Did you find that you had to work and study at the same time in order to finance your studies, or were the finances that were available, were they sufficient to sort of be able to concentrate solely on your studies? If we start from you this time, Julia.
Well, I think it's a bit poor that we have Oxford people here answering, because Oxford actually mandates that you're not allowed to work during term time. So you can only work during holidays, and not properly even during those, because you have a lot of work to complete over the holidays. But I worked during the summer and used those funds also to finance my studies. And I had support for my financing from Kela, for example. And the support I got was sufficient to cover it, together with private support also from family friends. So I managed to finance my studies without really having to rely on working at the same time as studying.
What about Cambridge?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same as in Oxford. So no, you're technically not allowed to work during term time, and it is sort of practically impossible to work during the holidays. By this, I refer to the Christmas and Easter holidays, and it is also very inadvisable because it will severely interfere with your work. So no, I didn't do it, and would not really recommend it to anyone unless they know that they could structure the work in a way that it would not interfere with their studies.
Yeah, I suppose it's quite intense, the study period. They do expect you to.
Yes, very intense. Yeah, very intense.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, if I can add, is I have a lot of friends who study in London, and also some of my Oxford friends who did, for example, private tutoring on the side, like a couple hours a week, which is possible, and many people do like small amounts of some sort of job on the side.
Yeah. Robin, do you have something to add to this, or?
Not particularly. I'm in the same situation as Julia, for example, with how I've been funding it, and definitely saying that there's not really time to work, not like properly in the holidays, maybe on the long vacation. I have done a little bit of work in the sense that I have these, for example, assisting at schools and things here in Finland when I'm back. So there are like the one-off where you like where you can take small shifts. So you can do that, but that doesn't like significantly contribute to your funding in any way, really. So in general, no, you can't really work.
Yeah. Well, I hope this answered the question in the audience. If you have any further questions about the funding, please do write them down, and we'll take them at the end. But why you chose.
Apologies.
Sorry, go ahead.
If I were to add something on funding, I suppose various opportunities that institutions might offer in sort of instead of those offered by the government. So if universities like Cambridge or Oxford were to come up with some makeshift schemes for the time being, that is definitely something that I would recommend applicants to look forward to, or sort of to look out for. Go on the websites of universities and see whether there's any useful information there.
May I ask actually, is that something that you have seen or that you've heard fellow colleagues talk about, students, that this is now maybe the opportunity for non-UK students to be able to fund their studies in the UK?
Yeah, there is a bit. My information is primarily from Cambridge, and the scholarships are very limited. For example, Trinity College Cambridge will offer 5 scholarships to European students from next year, and then Christ's College Cambridge will offer a handful as well, with 2 of them going to mentees of Project Access, an organization that I'm a part of. So there's a deal between Project Access and Christ's at Cambridge. So they're all very, very limited, and they will not replace the previous funding model, but they're still something. And I do encourage people to apply and sort of and try their luck. But this is just a caveat that they might keep in mind. Another option might be that people would wait for a year to apply. For example, if one is male, or a girl who's interested in going to the army, if one were to do the army, and then wait whether there would be more opportunities for 2022 entry, when these more ad hoc initiatives might have become more kind of more sort of properly sort of established. Exactly. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can I sort of add to that, and perhaps this is a wish list for Kirsty to take forward in her discussions, but what I heard from the United States is that the fees are very expensive, but then the universities actually offer funding for students to cover those fees, and it's dependent on parents' ability to pay or help the student to pay the fees. So perhaps the universities could think of this kind of a scheme if they're interested in getting students from elsewhere. The other thing I had in mind is that I'm losing my thought here. I think that the university universities in England, perhaps learning from their American colleagues in terms of funding, would be something that we could or the UK universities could look into.
An additional question to you, Kirsty, actually, there must be some sort of ideas of how this is going to impact universities and perhaps financially also, but brain, power into the country and so on. Would you be able to shed some ideas or thoughts on that?
So I think that's a very fair observation as well, Mira. I think the UK continues to absolutely want to attract international students. International students coming are an important part of university's diversity. It is a real positive, and our offer in terms of quality and the sort of wider package as well of attractiveness hopefully remains. Very good universities, very good courses, very desirable, obviously as well. The tuition in English language, all those kind of skills are very, very useful. The UK has also announced, changes to in lines of sort of immigration rules, so that afterwards, after studying, students are able to then, once they've graduated, stay on for, I think it's 2 years after a degree to work in the UK, and then 3 years if they've studied a PhD. So that's designed to encourage people who have studied, who have learned, who have benefited from a UK education to stay and continue to contribute in that way. The UK we are going through a time when there's lots of things changing, and I think it was Juha's comments on looking into other ways directly from the institutions. Absolutely encourage that. The institutions all set their own fees, but yeah, we're very keen to continue to attract and bring international students into the UK.
Yeah, of course, it brings a vibrancy and becomes a wonderful melting pot, really, of ideas. Yeah, there was a question about where you were planning on continuing or hoping to find work in the future, but perhaps we could first do a round amongst you, Robin and Julia, as to why you chose your institution, and did you perhaps have a future job already in mind then? If we start with Robin, for example.
Yes.
So why did you choose your institution?
Yes, so why I chose Oxford and why I chose medicine at Oxford. So medicine was something I kind of decided I wanted to do. I enjoy science. I did some work experience within the field to like see if this was something for me. And the reason why I chose Oxford for that was because it's a very scientific course, quite traditional course. So it fit the criteria I was looking for. So I started with a preclinical degree. So I'm doing 3 years of medical sciences now. So we're in the lab. My tutors are all researchers. And a lot of my professors are also like top researchers in Oxford. So we get to like discuss papers they've written. Some of the books I use, like the authors are my professors, my tutors. So it was very appealing to me for that reason. Also, when I realized I had the shot of getting into Oxford, it felt like a no-brainer to apply. It's a lot of tradition. It's a nice place. Yeah, I'd say the most main thing was it fit what I was looking for from the medical course instead of going somewhere where you start with clinical things from the beginning.
Okay, thank you. And Julia, perhaps.
Yeah, so why I chose Oxford and Oxford Law is probably I have always wanted to look at law from more of the theoretical side. And when I first started to think about doing law in university, I was determined that I'm not going to go on the commercial side and become a commercial solicitor. That obviously ended up being the complete opposite. But Oxford offers, for example, Roman law as part of the law undergraduate degree, which is something that not many universities do in the UK. And it's definitely more theoretical and fundamental understanding of law. And overall, we tend to focus on the theoretical side of any part of law rather than practice in undergraduate degree. But Oxford especially focuses on that part. So therefore, it really attracted me towards it. And it's a bit wider and in-depth in some of the areas. That's why I chose it, I guess. And law just overall was my interest. I just liked it.
Can I just interject? How did you find out about, what Oxford Law was before you were there?
So Oxford, for example, does open days each year, and you can visit the faculties, and you have short presentations on the faculties. So you get to go around for a day, and they tell you what the course has to offer you and what you would do during the course. So that's a great way to find out about it. And I think this year all of the open days would be online because they don't really want people at the university campuses.
Thank you.
Did you also compare different institutions, different universities? Because now we have 2 Oxford and 1 Cambridge. Obviously, there are many, many more places to study in the UK.
Yeah, I definitely did like a big comparison, and I also applied to different universities in the UK. It just happened to be that I got a place in Oxford, and that was my top choice, so I ended up there. But it's definitely worth to really dig into the course offerings of different universities and do a comparison because different types of teaching styles and courses fit different types of people.
And what about our Cambridge panelist?
Yeah, all right. Thank you. That's a very good question. Well, I'll start with history first. Well, just like the subject in high school, loved it, and I think it's kind of more related to kind of my personal intellectual interest of kind of wanting to learn a bit about a lot of things. And then also the Cambridge course was quite wide. The Cambridge history faculty is one of the largest in, I think, both the Anglophone world, but also also in Europe. So you get to study quite a bit of things. And when comparing different subjects and different universities, one of the key things to keep in mind is just go on the website to see the research interests of the researchers and professors who work at that university. So never choose a subject just on the kind of based on its name and assume that you would get to study something that you want. This is especially a case for social sciences and the humanities, because the courses can vary. Like, for example, a history course can vary quite widely from institution to institution based on the research preferences of the faculty. And Cambridge, I chose Cambridge because I really liked the supervision system called tutorial system in Oxford, where you write an essay a week, one or two a week, and then you meet a member of faculty. It can be, for most of the time for me, it was actually tenured members of faculty, so lecturers and professors with whom I discussed my essay. And I think I liked that style a lot. It was quite stressful, very, very much like a lot of work, but allowed me to learn very quickly and to develop as a writer, as a communicator, and just kind of learn to withstand tough workloads. And I think between Oxford and Cambridge, it was more or less of a coin toss. A couple of interesting people that I liked went to Cambridge as opposed to Oxford, like Vladimir Nabokov or Ludwig Wittgenstein, but that was just that was a bit of a random thing, to be honest. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you also look into other universities in the UK, or were these the two prestigious ones that you were focusing on then?
Well, Cambridge was an undisputable first choice, but I did eventually apply to LSE and UCL as well, and got into those, and was rejected from two Scottish universities. So I was rejected from St Andrews and Edinburgh. So that was my application journey.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So if we go back to the question that came from the audience, that how do you see prospects in the workplace, in the work market? Obviously, both institutions are extremely prestigious. So one would assume, as a layman, that the possibilities are open and endless, and you need just say where you want to go. But is that the case, and is that one of the reasons indeed why you all three ended up also in prestigious universities? If we go the reverse order, so please continue, Juha. Do you feel that the opportunities are there, and do you see yourself coming back, or are the opportunities now in the UK?
Well, I am physically in Oulu, actually, so I have come back in a sense. I had to escape the Corona chaos a few months back, and graduated in absentia. But when it comes to opportunities, I think the opportunities are great, but I think it's quite obvious that one should keep in mind that they should never let the fact that when they go to a top university get to their head. So if you go to Oxford and Cambridge and you sort of and you don't really do anything interesting in the university in terms of extracurriculars, or then you do not excel academically, I do not think that one really has a clear advantage over many other universities. So it's really, of course, perhaps an unfortunate thing from some points of view, but one really should not get complacent because they go to such an institution. You really need to be on your toes a little bit. And the best thing, and this doesn't mean that you need to somehow sort of do a lot of performative things that would communicate to further future employers that you are somehow employable and somehow intelligent. The best way to kind of to graduate as an employable person from university is especially from Oxbridge, is to study something that you like. So that guarantees that you would excel academically. So not choose a subject because you think that is going to make you more employable, and then study something that you hate or dislike. The workload is so heavy that it's kind of difficult to study anything that you don't really feel passionate about. And then to sort of just do, alongside your studies, just do whatever you find interesting. extracurricularly, whether it's sports, whether it's interesting societies related to, let's say, charity work, for example. So yeah, it's kind of, unfortunately, there is a lot of work when it comes to getting a job, and studying at a top university just doesn't really cut it if that is the only thing that you will have on your CV, because a lot of people will have that. But on the contrary, a last thing I may add is that it is, when you say that you have gone to Cambridge, it is true that it gives you that kind of 5-minute opportunity to pitch yourself and prove that, people assume that you're smart for at least a short amount of time. And in that short amount of time, you have an opportunity to convince someone that you are worthy of a job or something else. So yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
I quite like that visual picture of you having a 5-minute extra little window where you can pitch yourself and prove yourself worthy. But I think it's very encouraging to hear that, because we heard that in the last panel we had on study in the UK a year or so back, was it, Ola, that it didn't necessarily open doors automatically, which is a very positive message, I think, to all the thousands and thousands of students who enroll at different institutions all the time, and perhaps feel I don't know, unnecessarily impressed then perhaps with the big names, but that the opportunities are there for everyone who, as you say, loves what they do and has the passion for that. What about you, Julia, then? Law is obviously quite specific to the legal system and Roman law, if that was the theoretical side that you were studying. Do you see yourself positioning more in the UK, or do you feel that you have opportunities elsewhere as well?
So law is a funny thing. So because I'm going to be a commercial solicitor, obviously commercial solicitor, you will end up doing international deals everywhere. So it kind of gives you an open door to live in any other country as well and work there as well. For example, last summer, I worked actually in Helsinki as a legal trainee in one of the Helsinki law firms. But law is country specific. So there's extra hoops to hop through when you're trying to change to a different country, because you need to get accepted by the solicitor's role or the equivalent to that in that country as well, which sometimes means some extra studying in a university or in their qualification center for law. Currently, I don't know what the situation is with Finland because everything is a bit up in the air with the Brexit. So they haven't yet finalized what it means for lawyers who have trained in the UK. And currently I am stuck, or I signed a contract to work in the London for the next 3 years. So I will be here, and after that, honestly, I have no clue if I want to stay here or come back to Finland or maybe live in another country.
Sorry, if I may add, well, you probably might know more about this than I do, but I know that there is a track record of people coming back to Finland after having done a law BA in the UK and then doing a law master's at a Finnish university, a Finnish law faculty, and then becoming qualified in Finland as well.
Yeah, that's a normal route for people, but obviously I decided to do my legal practice course here, and then I'm going to qualify as a solicitor in the UK. So then I will have to take a different route and come as a professional rather than as a master's student.
Okay.
And do some sort of kelpoisuuskoe, I suppose, to get an equivalent degree here then.
Well, previously, if you trained as a solicitor in the UK, you could sort of convert your qualification into a Finnish qualification through the EU and their routes. They're not quite sure what's going to happen now, but then obviously you will have to do the same kelpoisuuskoe kind of thing that all lawyers have to do in Finland at some point.
Yeah. Actually, I'll take a little question here to Kirsty. do you know of these discussions between UK and the EU about these converting qualifications, and I suppose that will be possible going forward as well, that nurses or doctors who have studied elsewhere would be welcome in the UK, or what is the situation? Is that still open?
Yeah, so thank you. I mean, thus far, or previously, this is governed by the Mutual Recognition of Professional Qualifications Directive, and so the professions covered by that, which are recognised at the moment, that's still certainly true during the transition period. And I think my understanding is that beyond that, it should become part of, going forward, the UK's approach with other countries. The professions which are outside of that, the scope of that directive, in particular, they're still part of it, exactly as Julia said, being part of the discussion, the future relationship discussion at the moment. So I fear, like many other things, it is an answer which we will have more detail on further down the line.
Going back to Robin then, your turn to, or opportunity to answer on the question about the work opportunities and so on. And do you see the world open as your oyster, and could you see yourself coming back?
Because I'm studying medicine, and the default is that then you're going to become a doctor. So then, like, what the opportunities are now, as we just was just being discussed, I'm not quite sure like what will happen. A medical degree is a great opportunity, I think, in general, to go where you want to go or do what you want to do. Medics are usually sought after. I think you are kind of funneled into the British system in the beginning because after my degree, you get like a provisional license to practice medicine from the General Medical Council, and you do foundation years in the NHS. If I'm correct. One of the opportunities that I definitely get from doing medicine at Oxford is if I want to go more into research, because it's so science-based. We do our own research project in the third year, between the second and the third year. And you have a chance to get published, have your own studies done and stuff. So if you're actually focused on the research, I'd definitely say it opens doors. If, as Juha was saying, if you love the subject and you're ready to do the work, I think if you just try cruising through just to get the degree because it's Oxford, I don't think it'll have open any more doors than if you went anywhere else or be any better in that sense, because you still have to show that you are qualified to be a doctor or work in the medical profession. Just the fact that you have a degree from Oxford is not going to give you that. I definitely say that it's a good springboard to help you there. It set out the tutors the way it is. If you're really passionate about it and you're ready to do the work, then it definitely opens doors and gives you an advantage.
And I just...
Sorry, Ulla, go ahead.
I don't know if any of you saw the Times Top Universities 2021 report today. Did you, Kirsty, happen to see that, or Juha?
I've not seen it today. You're on it, Ulla. Do reveal all to us. I hope it was positive.
It was positive, actually, and perhaps the Oxford students can feel a little bit of pride here. Oxford was landed as the topmost university there. So, but the reason why I noticed was actually that University of Helsinki was amongst the top 100. So, there's good education in Finland, obviously, as well. And whether that's done in Finnish or English, it could be both, and both could be enjoyed. Sorry, just curiosity here. Sorry, Mira, do continue.
Yeah, no. I was wondering, actually, if I might ask the student panelists, would you choose study in the UK now if you were to choose? If you were in that position now, you were applying, let's say, for 2021 autumn. What would be your take, and why would you make that decision, whichever way it is? If we start with you, Robin.
That's a tough question. It's, for my case, being as a dual citizenship, so I could get the UK home fee status, then the financial aspect might not affect so much. Then if it does increase more, for example, for medicine, which is a long course, it would definitely be something you have to reconsider maybe. And then also there is obviously some degree of unclarity how things are going to be. I suspect next year, hopefully everything will be back to normal lectures and things. So it's tough to say. I would, based on the course and the experience I've had as well, I definitely would. One thing, obviously, we see a lot, for example, in the Scandinavian site in Oxford, is students who've done, for example, their bachelor's degree in Finland, and then they come to do masters later on. So maybe that would also be an option. Like if you want to go to the UK, you wouldn't have to go like directly. If you're unsure now, you could study in Finland, and then at a late stage get the opportunity to come to England. So that would also be something to consider.
What about you, Juha?
I mean, in terms of, I think studying in the UK was definitely a positive experience. So in terms of that, I would definitely apply again. And I think I'd pick Cambridge again. But of course, finance makes it a bit difficult, and I would definitely not. I don't think I would do it if I had to pay international fees. Well, A, it would be unaffordable, and B, I just think that the degree would be so expensive that without funding, I don't think any degree would be worth it unless one is extraordinarily wealthy, so that spending 100 to 150,000 pounds would be just kind of like a blink of an eye. Of course, those people exist as well. So. But even then, I think it would be much better to, let's say, do a BA or a BSc in Finland, and then as Robin alluded to, perhaps do a postgraduate qualification in the UK, for which and for postgrads the funding situation is better in terms of even if incoming postgraduates would not be eligible for home fees. There's just a much longer tradition of having funding at various universities and sort of these like very prestigious scholarships, for example, like Gates at Cambridge or Clarendon at Oxford, etc., etc. So yeah, kind of yes and no.
Yeah, and you, Julia.
I think I'm on a similar line with the boys. So like I would definitely, from the experience side, I would choose it again and choose Oxford again. I think I had one of the best years of my academic career in Oxford, and I definitely would do it again. Considering the finance, if I would it just wouldn't be affordable for me to deal with that kind of costs for a degree. And I don't think at that point the costs would be equivalent with the experience, so it wouldn't be worth it, as you have put it. Hopefully there will be funding. It's a good point that postgraduates do really have much better funding opportunities in the UK than undergraduates. There's just a long line of history of having very good access to funding as a postgraduate, because it's through different institutions and organizations rather than just the university or government. It's difficult. Also this year, UK has much worse situation with the coronavirus than many other countries. So we're, for example, for my legal practice course, we're fully online at least until Christmas. So it's also a different experience.
Well, if I try to sort of sum up, and please do join me in summing up, it sounds like it was obviously a very worthwhile experience, and gave a lot of positive international exposure, experience to new types of study, particularly what you mentioned, Juha, this type of very fast learning curve, having to write essays on a weekly basis, having a one-to-one with your mentor weekly to go through the text, becoming an excellent writer, communicator, the opportunities for science studies. I'm thinking of you, Robin, at Oxford, that should you wish to not become a clinical doctor, but sort of excel at research, then the opportunities are there. So maybe the words that sort of I'm thinking of from your words are passion and feeling passionate and ownership in the studies. Did I get you at all? Feel free to comment.
No.
Well, sorry, please.
It's the same. Like, I think Oxford and Cambridge especially are very research and theory focused and like academic funnels sort of. So if you're passionate about the theory side of basically any degree that is taught in those universities, it's a great experience and great for those who are passionate about research side in any subject.
Mm.
Yeah, and I would kind of add to that if you feel like you would want to study the subject for 8 to 10 hours per day without anyone forcing you, then that means that you're passionate, and that means that you would thrive in any top UK university, really.
I like the element of realism here. Yeah, it takes a lot. Yeah. Are there any questions in the audience for our panelists? Ola, can you see if there are any chat questions?
I'm looking at it and I can't see any here. So if you do have any questions, please write them in the chat box as soon as possible. So we can answer to those within the allocated time.
Yes, because we're coming to the end of our seminar. A few more minutes. Obviously, Kirsty's message was that there is an interest in keeping the momentum going and keeping students coming to the UK, and we still have unanswered questions when it comes to fees and funding and such like. But we obviously all are very hopeful that the decisions will be to the advantage of students, at least. Let's put it this way. If you had something encouraging that you would like to say as a parting word to anybody who might be listening, if I give you a minute each, Juha, Robin and Julia, what would you like to say? If we start with Juha.
I would say that many people who might not think that they have the potential for such universities definitely do. You should just kind of give yourself some time to think hard what really drives you. What sort of, if you could just decide that you could do anything you wanted for 3 years, what would get you out of bed? Because, well, an undergraduate degree is essentially that. 6 years for medicine, even longer. And then second, also, if one really decides to go to such universities and does not get in, that is also totally fine. You'll be fine, and you will reach your goals even if you did not go to these universities. So there are other ways to reach your goals post graduation, but keep this more in mind as an option to explore, but definitely not the only option. I think that's it.
Thank you, Juha. Robin, we have about a minute for you.
Yes. So as I agree with that there isn't any specific correct path, and what you might be considering might not happen that way, and that's okay. As saying, there's no rush. Like if you don't get in this year, or if you're uncertain about things, like it doesn't matter. Like you can go whenever. And also back to the topic of passion, I just say enjoy the application project, going through it. If you get an interview somewhere, go there and enjoy it. Have a discussion with these professors or tutors, because there's so much we can't control anyway. So I just say be genuine, and everything will be fine. You'll get in somewhere. You'll be okay.
Thank you very much. Lovely words. And Julia, and we're a minute over time, but I'm sure we'd love to hear from you still before we end this seminar.
Well, I'll take a bit different route than the boys and will not repeat, although they said very good things. But I know that as someone from Finland, the foreign application system can seem a bit confusing and terrifying, and I wouldn't be put off by that. And if it's your dream, definitely go for it. And what I would like to send as a message is there's amazing resources that you can use. There's a lot of Finnish people who have gone to UK and studied there. Just be brave, hunt them down on LinkedIn or something and connect them and ask like, hey, would you like to help me with this? Or can I chat to you about your studies or university? And I'm pretty sure that everyone who has lived abroad and done a degree abroad are more than happy to help you. So just stay connected and reach out and ask for help if you feel like you need it with applications or anything.
Thank you so much. Sounds like a really happy, kind world that we're promoting here, and it goes very nicely with the Finnbrit values as well about lifelong learning and kindness and inclusiveness. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone on the panel, Kirsti, Julia, Robin, Juha, Ulla, and of course to the audience, a big thank you for listening. We've recorded this session, so I'm not sure where it is going to be posted, but we might be able to link you to snippets of this at least, should you have missed this particular opportunity. So thank you very much, and keep the Finnbrit website on view in case we have other interesting seminars to share with you. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.